Hi, I'm Tony Heywood from the Vigo Gallery in London, and today I'm in the Atkinson Gallery in Southport in the Discovery Box. And I'm going to talk a little bit about a new series of paintings that I've been doing that are all based around the Sefton coast. That's specifically a beach area called Formby, and it's a sort of woodland mobile dunescape. And it's an area that I was brought up in the 60s, and I guess it's a place that I've never really felt I've ever left. And it's got a very strong sort of magnetic pull towards it for me. And I have revisited it many times, and I've decided that my current artistic practice is going to be to spend more and more time trying to discover and develop a more intimate relationship with this particular place. Now, I think the pull really has come from my childhood. I think we often think that, at an early age we have this sort of raw, unmediated, non-filtered experience of nature, something that I think everyone and all children should have, and one develops a sort of language and a real deep sense of belonging and a sensitivity to not only the plants, the shoreline, but all the sort of organisms that you encounter. They're all quite mysterious to you as a child. And to try and retain that element of that spark of magic and difference is, to me, what the essential intention is when I'm going out and walking in these woods again with the intention of doing portraits or paintings. In a way, it's to capture that sort of creative bond that I once had that I'm now trying to revisit. So one way I've thought about doing this, and it's a sort of way of describing what the actual painting practice is. Why bother painting? Why not just photograph? Why not do a real representation that looks exactly like the coast? These are very abstract pieces, and in a way it reflects this attempt by myself to develop a real close relationship, a more participatory relationship. And that's something that I've been developing through shamanic activity, and particularly developing this animistic attitude that I have towards nature. And I guess in a nutshell that involves really considering that everything everywhere on that beach, we'll talk just about the beach, has a language of sorts, where it's a rustling pine, it's the call of the sea, the sound of the waves, the light. Each of the ingredients, or what I've sort of referred to as, from a surrealist perspective, personages, all these beings or elements, from an animistic way of thinking, are speaking to you. And I develop my own private vocabulary. And the idea is that when I go down there, I'm sort of revisiting this place daily, quite often, but this will go on year after year. So feel that I'm embedding myself into some form of natural cycle of this place. So when we're looking at some of these forms and shapes and textures on the painting, they're referring to all the ingredients that are, when I call them ingredients, beings, presences on that beach. So for instance, if a section of an oil rig, the Hamilton rig that was developed in the late 60s, early 70s, is highly visible to me one day, or my antennae are out, but I'm also looking at a centipede or a piece of bark or a woodlouse or a Coke can. They've all got a sort of agency and sense of vitality. And so when I go back, and each of the paintings is a particular, you might call, record, portrait, attempt to distill the feelings, the emotions, the mood of that particular encounter. They've all got their own particular voice, and they've all got equal weight. So you might find that something as simple as a jellyfish is as large in the painting as the oil rig, or dwarfs out a plane that's coming in. They're all these characters that I'm engaging with repeatedly, because as I said, I keep returning to the same place, to the same walk, I even have sort of a private language that I might address to some of the trees or a particular vista. And that's a way of talking and thinking that sort of helps you develop this sort of animistic approach to your place. So in a way, the paintings, what you're looking at are, whilst they're quite abstract, and each painting is in essence composed of lots of different elements. Some of the elements are constantly repeated. Often there are figures in them. And I sort of think some of those figures maybe stand in for me. They stand in for footballers who are playing down there, people who are fishing, people who are walking their dogs. But the important thing for me is that the human figure is no more important than the animal or the horse or the seagull or the jellyfish. And to a degree, in the paintings, they all sort of coalesce together. And so the word really is almost like a metamorphosis that is going on. So there's this sort of flesh-like imagery of figures that bleed into sand dunes, into grasses, and so that as if the whole place is undergoing some form of dynamic, creative eruption. And I think that's really important because it does feel to me that this ongoing, the wind, the light, the dynamics of this place, which I call the mood, or how other people might refer to the psychology of the place, the spirit of the place. There's a phrase that's bandied around at the moment called psychotopia, and that is this melding of the mind of the place with the mind of the human who is interacting with it, as if somehow every person who attends or visits that place leaves a little bit of themselves with that place, and the gradual accretion of the spirit or the mind of that place is this constant ongoing dynamic process. And my paintings are an attempt to capture that mood and that experience rather than a representation of what a photographic or visually formal thing would look like. I often use collage, and I will go back to the studio and paint individual things, remix them together, blend certain things over the top, but there's this hard edgeness to the painting, to the collage, and that is to give everything its particular identity. So everything is butting up, but it still retains its own integrity, I think. Some things end up being layered on top of each other, but that's again part of the essence of how I perceptually engage with the place. Things appear, disappear, the depth of field, the density, the mood, is really a compounding of all these experiences. And so you might see this juxtaposition and this jangle of elements, torn elements, painted on oil, repainted again. But it is this like symbol soup of all the ingredients pushed together. And on the back wall of a larger painting is almost a repository. I've come to think of these, and I have 4 other large works, where I'm actually just now playing with the raw ingredients rather than the individual smaller paintings, which are almost like little portals into events on a particular day and a time. So there's 40 of them here, and they all refer to particular memories and times, very specific times. Whereas the larger painting is this sort of like DNA symbol soup of all the ingredients which one might lift out and attach to the paintings. Now, I might have I hope I haven't overcomplicated it. It's been a really life-affirming thing for me, this painting, because each time I go down and come back from that, having that experience of the beach, and another painting appears, it's a sort of a deeper understanding and a sense of magic. I feel that through the painting I'm transforming and giving a visual voice to that beach, that perhaps translating, perhaps even called it translating a very one-to-one experience. And so this wall of paintings of 40 is really a translation and a cosmology of my private cosmology in paint of my times walking, a selection of my times walking on the beach. And I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.